Welcome to A Moment of Xen. Time to sit back and relax as model, actress, mentor, and supermom Xen Sams takes you on a sexy and wild ride, covering the latest in film, fashion, pop culture, cryptocurrency, fintech, cannabis, and entertainment from the millennial mom's perspective. Here's your host, Xen Sams.
Welcome back, New York City and beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Xen Sams. Happy holidays. Wishing you the very best for 2026. We're celebrating 6.5 years on air, marking this episode 247. Another exciting episode lays ahead. It's truly a pleasure spending time with you on the airwaves. Thank you for tuning in every Saturday night and for engaging with me on social media. That connection is what makes all of this worthwhile. Continue to follow me on Instagram at Xen Sams. That's Zen with an X, not a Z. XENSAMS. And remember, all episodes stream Sundays at 2 p.m. directly on our YouTube channel, Xen Sams, and on your home TV at mox.yourhometv.com. Welcome back to A Moment of Xen, where alongside our experts on the microphone, we explore film, fashion, pop culture, cryptocurrency, cannabis, fintech, health, and yes, everything in between, always through the lens of the millennial mom. Today's lineup fuels the body, the mind, and the heart. In the Elevated Experiences segment brought to you by MTK Group NY, today we're stepping inside the world of ultra-luxury travel with Olivia Ferney, the woman behind Travel With Livii on social media, known for executing the impossible and sharing the psychology behind the most elite travel requests in the world. From last-minute private islands to navigating the emotional dynamics of ultra-high net worth clients, Olivia operates where precision, discretion, and calm are non-negotiable. In the Going Deep segment brought to you by CO2 Lift, joining me is Tracy Andreasen, a board-certified nurse practitioner and the founder of Rise Rejuvenation Center, as well as a nationally recognized educator and clinical trainer in the medical aesthetics. Tracy's helping redefine beauty through education, from natural-looking aesthetics results to intimate wellness and regenerative treatments. Today, we're talking about why education is the future of aesthetics, how natural results require restraint and expertise, and why women's intimate health finally deserves a seat at the wellness table. In the Clean Collective segment brought to you by Society Brands, featuring Crunchy, we're joined by Carly, founder of Clean Living with Carly Hartwig, a low-tox living educator and quote-unquote crunchy mama, helping women and families understand how everyday skincare, beauty, and household products can quietly impact hormones, fertility, and long-term health. This is a practical, empowering conversation about clean living without fear, guilt, or perfectionism. And up next in the Brain Blueprint segment brought to you by the Melillo Centers, today's topic is PDA, Pathological Demand Avoidance. It's a misunderstood profile on the autism spectrum and why everyday demands can feel neurologically overwhelming for some children. Joining us is Amber Arrington, founder of Autism Savvy, a parent educator and advocate whose work is grounded in lived experience and practical strategies for families navigating PDA. We're also joined by our co-contributor, Dr. Robert Melillo, clinician, researcher, and internationally recognized expert in childhood neurological development. Stay tuned for Dr. Melillo and Amber. You're listening to A Moment of Xen, and I'm your host, Xen Sams. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Xen is brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut.
Discover the refreshing taste of 100% pure coconut water that actually tastes great. Naturally sweet with no artificial flavors or added sugar. It's packed with electrolytes to keep you hydrated throughout your day. And with 10% of profits going to charity, every sip makes a difference. Pure taste, pure goodness. Experience nature's Gatorade. Visit Once Upon a Coconut or naturesgatorade.com.
A Moment of Xen is brought to you by Tortora Promotions, specializing in white glove digital marketing, social media management, professional videography, and PR services. Based in New York City and partnering with hundreds of businesses nationwide, they deliver proven strategies that bring more customers through the door. If your old marketing methods aren't keeping up, Tortora Promotions can step in to help you stay ahead. Grow your brand and drive real results. Reach out today and follow them on Instagram at Tortora Promotions. Your business deserves it.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio, and beyond. Welcome to the Brain Blueprint segment. Today, we're leaning into a topic that is profoundly misunderstood and deeply emotional for countless families. Pathological Demand Avoidance, or PDA. It's a profile within the autism spectrum that often goes unrecognized for years. And here's the reality. According to the CDC, 1 in 36 children in the United States is now diagnosed with autism, the highest rate we've ever recorded. And within that population exists a subset of children who experience everyday demands, brushing teeth, getting dressed, transitioning tasks as neurological threat signals rather than simple requests. Now, for those families, everyday life can feel like an unpredictable battlefield of anxiety, overwhelm, and misunderstood behaviors. That's why today's conversation matters so much. We're exploring when everyday demands feel impossible, a deeper look at PDA in children, and we're doing it through two powerful lenses, the lived experience and the neuroscience behind it. Our co-contributor is Dr. Robert Melillo. He's a clinician, a researcher, author, and world-renowned expert in childhood neurological disorders. We have our incredible guest today, Amber Arrington. We are honored to welcome someone whose voice is transforming the way families understand PDA. Amber is the founder of Autism Savvy, and she's a mom of 4 autistic children aged 5, 6, 18, and 21. She specializes in helping parents identify PDA early and teaches them her signature approach to speaking fluent PDA, a communication framework that rebuilds calm, connection, and confidence inside homes that often feel overwhelmed or misunderstood. Her work blends lived experience, practical tools, and the emotional truth so many parents carry quietly. And you can, of course, find her directly on platforms at Autism Savvy. Amber and Dr. Melillo, welcome to the show, superstars.
Thank you, for
Happy to be here.
excited.
Okay, Amber, I'm going to kick off with you. So before we bring the neuroscience into focus with Dr. Melillo, I want to ground this in what parents feel long before they have a diagnosis. So PDA is often misinterpreted as defiance or behavioral issues, when in reality, it's a profoundly different internal experience for the child. Now, in your own words and through your lived experience, what is pathological demand avoidance in the simplest terms, and how does it tend to present in a child's daily life?
I would say that PDA is an elevated nervous system response to everyday demands. And the thing is, these kids are going to look very different from what they expect autism to look like, because they are going to probably be very verbal, extremely social. They're going to be very intelligent, and yet they might still completely shut down if there's a request made to them as simple as get on your shoes. And when that happens, it's not defiance. It's their brain going into fight or flight because that demand feels to them as if a lion is chasing them.
That clarity you just gave, that simple little line that feels like a lion is chasing them, that's invaluable, because when parents understand these reactions as anxiety driven and neurologically rooted, not defiance, it really shifts the entire narrative.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, Dr. Melillo, I want to kind of bridge this into the neurobiology of what Amber just described. Do you want to take it away there?
Yeah, well, that's, for me, I'm always trying to describe it in neurological neuroscience terms. So, when you talk about fight or flight, one of the things that, we've done research on is shown that these children are in a sympathetically dominant state. So, the sympathetic parasympathetic system. And because of immaturity and because of other developmental issues, they are literally in a constant fight or flight state. And we see this because their heart rate is higher than it should be, which tells us that balance isn't proper. And, I have some other ideas about what's happening in the brain, but I'd love, with your experience, if you look at it and think about what do you think is happening in the brain neurologically or from a neuroscience perspective. Do you have any thoughts on that? And, what do you think is going on?
Sure. From my perspective, when a PDA child hears a demand, their brain isn't registering it as just a simple request. Like we would respond to something. It feels to them like a loss of control. And so it's like if we're sitting in the passenger seat of a car and the driver just slams on their brakes, that feeling that we get, to me, that's an example of how they're feeling and what they're experiencing all day long, every day. So that's that fight, that flight, but also freeze and fawn. And so it's their nervous system saying danger, even when things are safe.
Okay. When one of the things I've, done research in and written papers is that, especially with children that are very verbal on the autism spectrum. Their left hemisphere skills are exceptional. They're brilliant, but their right hemisphere nonverbal communication is really deficient. And they don't hear the subtle things like prosodic variation in the tone. I had this experience with a gentleman like this many years ago where I asked him a question. He was going to work, and I said to him, "You going to work now?" And he looked at me and he went, "I am." And I said, "Wow, well, that was a weird response." And then I realized, if you don't hear me say, "You going to work now?" like just the tone, and you just hear it through the words, it's "you're going to work now." It was a command to him. And he completely misinterpreted it as, you're telling me to do something. What, you know what I mean? So I think a lot of it may have to do with that they don't understand it's a request, and they're looking at maybe as a command. And they also, they don't like to transition to new things because that left brain loves familiarity and it likes doing the same thing over and over.
Exactly. That scientific framing is so important because it removes blame from the child or the person and the parent, right? Because it's that right brain responding to perceived threat, not a behavioral choice, which is the fundamentals of this. It's not a choice, right? Now, Amber, one of the ways you support families is by translating these neurological and behavioral patterns into real life, recognizable moments. I mean, it helps parents say, "Oh, that's what I'm seeing."
Yeah.
So, can you share a specific example of a moment in your home when a simple everyday request became overwhelming for your child? And what was that escalation looking like on both sides?
Okay, sure. So recently, I took my two little autistic girls to an indoor play place, and we arrived about 10 a.m. And I realized in that moment that my littlest one, who has the PDA profile, she had not used the restroom since before bed the night before. So it had been well over 12 hours. I started to feel anxiety because I know she needs to go potty. But from what I know about her is that the mere suggestion of, "Hey, do you need to go potty?" or "It's time to go potty," would trigger a meltdown or total refusal. And so that's just an everyday life example. I just have to lean into my own mental toolkit of strategies that I use to try to get her to accomplish that thing that I know she needs to do while she gets to remain autonomous about how and when it happens.
Wow. I mean, that's thank you for your vulnerability in sharing that, because I think these moments are the ones parents feel the most isolated in. And even hearing them, spoken out loud brings a lot of validation, something as simple as going potty.
Absolutely. And it's those type of little things that can really just trick them up and trick us up as parents when we don't know what we're dealing with.
Yeah, and this is now I'm going to lean to Dr. Melillo. Can you help distinguish PDA from things like general anxiety or oppositionality, Dr. Melillo?
General anxiety, to me, when we talk about anxiety, it's more of a right brain dominant thing. It has a lot to do with a sense of danger. It has a lot to do with fear or social anxiety or embarrassment. Whereas this is more a sense of control. I think it's not wanting to give up control, not wanting to do something, and that left brain is very, very controlling. When it comes to that, and we have some kids that literally say that what's happening, we ask them, and some of these kids are spellers, and I don't know if Amber, if you also work with nonverbal kids that have this type of stuff too, because they can also get really resistant and aggressive at times.
Now, Amber, you've created a language and a strategy set that truly changes the dynamic in PDA homes. And it aligns beautifully with what neuroscience tells us about co-regulation and the threat perception system. Can you walk us through what speaking fluent PDA actually looked like? I mean, how does shifting the language, the tone, or the structure of a demand create immediate regulation for these children?
So it might be a bit different than you might think by the way it sounds. Speaking fluent PDA, what that means to me is I'm really talking about how we regulate ourselves as the parent first. Because when we can understand what's really going on between a PDA child's brain and body, what's really happening, then we can see it through a different lens, right? We can have compassion for them instead of frustration that they're not behaving the way that we wish that they were. And so when we can see it that way, then we stay grounded. And a lot of times it's that these PDA kids need to borrow a safe nervous system. And we can be that for them. So when we stay calm and we stay curious and connected, then their bodies can keep feeling safe. So when I'm saying speaking fluent PDA, I think that's more what I really mean. It's also about fluently understanding the nuances of their behavior such that supporting them becomes second nature.
It's really extraordinary how much how much gets stabilized when the approach shifts in hearing you speak. I mean, not the expectations, but the delivery and the emotional scaffolding. And parents need to hear that this is not about lowering the bar, it's about lowering the threat.
Absolutely. I like the way you put that.
Yeah, that's what I understood from your answering your question and from you answering the question, and you did that so eloquently. Now, Dr. Melillo, I know that you have I want to bring the right brain's capacity for change and interpretation and hemispheric communication and developmental strengthening into this conversation.
Well, I love what she just said. I mean, it's really brilliant, and I've never heard anybody else say that actually, about that you're really focusing on the parent regulating themselves, and that helps the child to co-regulate. The right hemisphere, the two primary focuses of it in early development especially, is attachment and emotional regulation. And most children in those first 3 years when the right brain is developing, they have to co-regulate, right? They have to co-regulate. The parents have to co-regulate them. You have to soothe them. You have to take them down. And then as that right brain develops and as those networks develop, they're able to self-regulate. But many kids on the autism spectrum never get that level to be able to do that. And parents, though, because the child's older, they're like, well, you should be able to self-regulate right now, like every other child your age. And so they don't do the co-regulation or even think about that. And that's really brilliant. And there's a move right now in the psychological psychiatric world with some people like Alan Shore and Dan Siegel and Lou Cozolino and some other people out of California talking about right brain therapy, where it's not about talk therapy, which is more left brain. It's about listening therapy, and it's about connecting with the other person's body to try to feel what they feel and also bring them down. And that's what you're saying with that. And it's great because most people are going to fight with the child, are going to try to force the child to do what they want them to do. And you're dealing with the own system, which I think is really, really makes a lot of sense.
I'm so glad it makes sense from, a neuroscientist perspective as well. That's what we see in the research, and that's what we kind of are gleaning as parents. And so it's nice to kind of have that confirmed.
Now, for parents listening who suspect PDA, Amber, but haven't named it yet, what are some early indicators that may help them recognize this profile sooner?
So some of the early signs that I hear from parents and that I experience myself is going to be, number one, they feel like they're walking on eggshells all the time around their child. They might feel like they're the only person that their child trusts, and therefore the only person that their child will let do anything for them. And they're really attached and fixated on, the parent as their person, which is really hard for a parent to carry. These kids usually are known as bossy, or controlling for their age. And so they can also be switching from being really sweet and really charming to very quickly changing into an explosion. And so a parent might describe it as like this Jekyll and Hyde behavior they're seeing in their kiddo. So these are some of those patterns they might see in the beginning, just really strong, elevated default no's right from the start.
I think a lot of parents just said, oh, that's my kid.
Yeah, 100%. And they don't know what it is, and they just think they're failing.
I mean, thank you for putting that into perspective. Dr. Melillo, is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, a lot of this revolves around OCD behavior. Obsessive compulsive behavior is really generated by two areas in the left brain being overactive, the dorsal lateral prefrontal and the orbital frontal, and a deficit on the right side. And so, what I've seen is some kids that they have such severe OCD. And then when you don't do what they need to do, what their brain is telling them that they have to do, and then you don't do that, that's when, their whole nervous system just explodes. And that's because they're in this constant fight or flight, and they don't have that emotional regulation capacity of the right side. So a lot of it is, in parents looking at it, if it almost seems obsessive compulsive, it probably is that. And that's an underlying factor there.
Right.
Okay, Amber, I'm really interested, and I want to know, how do parents manage this? What are some of the things or strategies that you may teach parents to help them with a child that may be having pathological demand avoidance?
Okay. So, one of the most helpful approaches that I see parents using in this space for pathologically demand avoidant children, myself included, would be this low demand parenting approach, which to me, it simply means we let go of as much as we can, as often as we can. And by doing this, we're reducing unnecessary pressure because, like, think about how much unnecessary pressure we put on our kids as parents. So when we can reduce that pressure, then their nervous system can, stay settled and feel safe. I think that's really important. I also think it's important to essentially stop trying to be the boss of my kid all the time. I can remain the leader, but instead, like, collaborate and partner with them to get things done. So I'm really strategic about how I craft every scenario that my daughter is walking into to allow her to be able to remain equal and autonomous in that moment so that her nervous system can stay safe. And the idea with these kind of strategies is just that over time, when we support our kids in this way, they can stay more regulated and get more resilient because we support them in their felt safety.
And now that you're saying all of this, I mean, these are small little tweaks that we can make as parents. The control is in our hands. Is that what I'm learning? And that this is a very, very manageable if you're understanding the core of it. And that's why when Dr. Melillo explains and expands on neuroplasticity and integration and developmental strengthening, we realize it's all correlated, but parents are 50% of the solution here.
Right, because the solution for dealing with a PDA child is really going to be the opposite of what society is going to say is good parenting. It's letting go of a lot of things that others are going to look in and judge and say, that's not how you parent. So
Right.
It's really tricky, and it makes you exhale when you can understand what's going on and how to really approach it.
Yeah. Well, Amber, I thank you for coming on. And Dr. Melillo, you are amazing. I always love these segments. I mean, Amber, your lived experience and your wisdom and your powerful voice are priceless.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you, Amber. You've been great. Wonderful.
You can learn more from Amber at autismsavvy.com. That's SAVVY. And you can find her on social media on the gram at Autism Savvy. And of course, you can explore Dr. Robert Melillo's neuroscience work at drrobertmelillo.com and also find him on the gram at Dr. Robert Melillo. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. That was the Brain Blueprint segment. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by the Melillo Method Centers, where hope truly lives, specializing in ADHD, dyslexia, autism, and other neurological challenges. Dr. Robert Melillo and his team create personalized treatment plans that go beyond symptom management. Using advanced neuroscience, they help children and adults reach their fullest potential. Families worldwide choose the Melillo method for answers and results. Begin your journey to better brain health at drrobertmelillo.com. A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Your Home TV with Kathy Ireland and their channel partners. Head to yourhometv.com for free, family-friendly programming, streaming 24/7.
Are you looking to build a new home? Think about building a barn-dominium. There's just something about getting away from it all. Country living, fresh air, and outdoor entertainment. Watch luxury barn-dominium tours on Your Home TV and let Stacy Lynn, the barn-dominium lady, take you on a journey through her barn-dominium designs.
Tune in to A Moment of Zen, Saturday nights from 9 to 10 p.m. on 710 WOR, the voice of New York.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Welcome back to the Elevated Experiences segment brought to you by MTK Group New York, the leaders in curating luxury escapes, private jet pathways, and meticulously tailored itineraries for those who believe life is meant to be experienced at altitude. Today's show takes us into a world that is equal parts glamorous, unpredictable, and, let's be honest, absolutely addictive to watch. A world where a simple text message can turn into a 5-figure helicopter rescue, where every hour counts, and where expectations aren't just high, they're stratospheric. And at the center of this universe is a woman the New York Times described as the viral concierge, decoding the psychology of the ultra-wealthy traveler. You know her as the creator behind Travel With Livii across all platforms, where her rich people problem storytelling has racked up millions of views and endless fascinations. She books penthouses, private islands, last-minute yachts, and yes, she once handled a request to rent an entire branch of Palm Jumeirah. From a young woman escaping family drama, she has all of it covered. Her life is the perfect blend of crisis management, luxury logistics, and cinematic storytelling. With headliners like Confessions of a Billionaire Travel Fixer, The Craziest Demands Delivered, and Inside the Ultra-Rich Playbook, Impossible Travel Requests Made Real, Olivia Ferney has become the blueprint for what modern luxury travel concierge work looks like. Olivia, welcome to the show, superstar.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to talk to you because
Me
your
too.
posts, they make me laugh, and they also make me want to share them because they're so ridiculously far-fetched but rooted in truth that people just can't conceive that this is even a request. So
Sure.
in the New York Times article and in your viral clips, you share these stories that feel more like scenes from Succession than real life. What was the first request where you thought, okay, this isn't travel planning, this is a different universe entirely?
I mean, when I got into this job, it was very apparent very quickly, kind of the insanity that I was going to be dealing with. Something that I dealt with very early on was in the stratosphere of food. And you would not believe the kind of things that I deal with when it comes to food. I have vegans that decide that they want to eat only meat, like halfway through their mega yacht trip, and they need me to literally helicopter certain cuts of meat out. I have people that are allergic to certain fruits and vegetables from certain countries, and they never tell me until we get there. There's so many different pieces of moving. There's so many different moving parts when it comes to what I do. And I would say that was the craziest one that I had right in the beginning, was limes. I had a woman that was allergic to limes from different countries. And immediately, like, my brain just was like, what is wrong with this person? I don't understand how this is a real thing. This is just not possible. But, you know, in my position, it's my job not to judge, it's to execute. So when a client needs a lime from somewhere else because the provisionals at the certain resort don't have those limes, I got to get it done. I need to go to a farmer's market local or have a lime flown in so that she can have the right margaritas. But now I'm so numb to it. I deal with all sorts of requests all the time. So I'm not shocked these days.
That's incredible. And what I love is that your normal is everyone else's jaw-dropping moment. I mean, you truly operate in an alternate dimension of travel, without a doubt. Now, I want to pivot to the networking behind the magic. So for you to even attempt these wild requests, from last-minute yacht charters to sourcing obscure items like limes or to securing villas that aren't even listed publicly, you must have a global network that's just unreal. So can you walk us through what that network actually looks like? I mean, who are the people or partners who make impossible possible, and how fast can you mobilize them when the clock is ticking?
Great question. I mean, I consider myself to be a part of like the Avengers of luxury travel. I don't pretend like this is just me, myself, and I. I have an amazing team here, but I also I, as a luxury travel agent, need to get stuff done at the drop of a hat at any point in time and at all hours of the day. As we know, there's time differences around the world, and I can't stay up 24 hours a day. So it really is important that I have connections with people on the ground. You know, I can't pretend like I've got a connection with a Nona in Italy who's going to get me the best reservation at the hardest to get spot with the old grandmother cooking this incredible Italian pasta that nobody knows about, right? If I have a client that needs something at this crazy spot that's hard to get into, or a spot that nobody knows about, I need people on the ground that just like understand the lay of the land. So that's what I spend 365 days a year doing. I'm flying everywhere. I'm shaking hands with people, and I'm getting to know the communities so that I can make the impossible happen. So yeah, I really do consider it like a very wide net of connections, but I have the best rock stars in the best places in the world.
Wow, it really shows that luxury isn't just about money, right? It's about access, and your network is
That's
truly
everything. Yeah. Well, I mean, in the industry that I work in, everybody has money, right? None of my clients are struggling, to say the least. And they, you know, when everybody has money, it comes down to who knows what and your who knows who and your attitude.
There you go. Access, and your network is truly its own ecosystem.
Absolutely.
Now, when family dynamics enter the chat, okay. So one of the stories referenced publicly was about a young client wanting to rent an entire branch of Palm Jumeirah, right? Essentially as a reaction to family tension, from what I understood.
Yeah.
So in situations like that, you're not just a concierge, you're almost a mediator. I mean, how do you manage these emotionally charged requests? Have you ever had to balance conflicting family expectations or navigate a request that put you in the crosshairs of a family dynamic?
Absolutely. I deal with it every day. I have so many amazing families that I work with. And for me, I don't know what it is, but there's some joy and satisfaction I get out of kind of managing those relationships. I think sometimes in families, and everybody has family issues, no matter how wealthy or not wealthy you are. These families sometimes need a little guidance, and I consider myself a very calm person. So sometimes if a father and a daughter have a disagreement on something and it's simply just a communication error, I love being able to get involved so that I can kind of lessen the blow on both sides, because sometimes we just come in hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what makes you indispensable, because you go above and beyond your title, right? You service in areas that you become so critical to their ecosystem that they
And-
couldn't dream of booking with anyone else, because no one's going to get them the way you get them. And I think that goes a long way.
Yeah,
And
I really consider my clients are family. Like anyone that's a part of my Concierge Plus program, we get uncomfortably close. We're so involved in
yeah,
each other's
yeah.
lives.
And that's the thing, right? Money doesn't simplify emotions, it amplifies them. So
Correct. Yeah.
you're managing travel, but sometimes you're managing heartbreak and frustration and ego all combined in one. So kudos to you, my dear. You have your work cut out for you.
Thank you very much.
So the New York City effect. You're a New York City girl. I've been here my whole life, 20 years plus since I was a teenager I arrived here. You've mentioned living in New York, and the Times even hints at your unshakable calm, but that's not a New York thing. So do you feel that the New York City lifestyle, the pace, the pressure, the immediacy has shaped how you respond to chaos? I mean, is your calm something you had to develop, or is it simply who you are at your core?
I think it's something I am at my core. New York is insane. I honestly don't consider myself like a citizen of any city. I am traveling all the time, like 8 to 9 months of the year. I'm somewhere. So I would say I do spend quite a bit of time in New York, but New York still stresses me out. I mean, I feel like I'm going to get hit by a bike every time I leave the house. So it's a crazy spot. It definitely doesn't help my calmness down there. I love the city, but I think it's an innate thing for me for sure.
Yeah, that's the New York superpower, right? Unbothered resilience, and you really embody that.
Yeah.
So do the ultra rich know what they want, or are they proving that they can get it? So many of the many of the wildest requests you've shared imported vegan lemons and limes, entire spas cleared out, special access helipads, or urgently securing yachts just because. Do these requests come from genuine needs, or is it some sort, or is it some of it symbolic, like a flex, a statement of power? What's really driving the psychology of the ultra wealthy traveler?
I think it's a mix. It really depends on every single individual, because all of us are so different. I think that some people see my Instagram, and we've gotten so many amazing clients that have come from that. But I've also had, some difficult clients that we just haven't been able to work with, because they'll see some requests and think that they're allowed to come in and use and abuse the relationship. It's a two-way streak. This relationship takes a lot of respect and trust on both ends. I know what I'm doing. I'm very good at what I'm doing, and you need to trust that I can do that. So when somebody comes in, we have no relationship, and they're yelling and screaming and swearing, those things get in my head a little bit, or they're just requesting things that are simply not possible or borderline illegal. I can't get those things done. So I think it kind of depends. At the end of the day, everybody is trying to do stuff that other people haven't done. Experiences are on like the growth stream right now, like crazy. So things are definitely changing, but it has been interesting to see how requests have changed a little bit due to the social media stuff.
Yeah, that makes total sense, because luxury isn't a price point, right? It's a mindset, and it's the feeling of limitlessness, if you will.
1000%. Yep.
So the future of luxury travel and the future of you, I want to focus on 2026. Let's look forward. So experts predict that by 2026, private aviation usage will rise another 18%.
Yeah.
Well, wellness-driven travel will explode, and destinations like Oman and Montenegro and Greenland and Kyoto will dominate the luxury market. So, how do you see the ultra wealthy shifting their travel priorities in 2026, and where do you see yourself and Travel with Livii in 2026, creatively, professionally, and even personally?
I mean, there's a lot of trends. I think luxury travel is just so insane to look at and see where things are going to go. I do agree. I think private aviation, we're looking at like 13 to 18% growth year over year right now. It's been insane. So that'll continue to grow. People are worried about staying in their bubble. You know, that private access feeling is just becoming, everybody wants to feel it. Everybody wants to feel important and private. And so that bubble comes with privacy. It comes with private islands, comes with private yachts, private transfers, private aviation. So I think those types of things are going to continue to grow. As I just mentioned, I think the experience market is going to continue to skyrocket. Special Super Bowl events, F1 events, you know, Wimbledon Opens, golf events, all these things give people a lot of like serotonin, I think, when they attend, and people are having a lot of fun doing those things. So, you know, after COVID, it's been really tough for that industry to grow, and now it's starting to skyrocket again. So I'm really happy to see that. And it's fun. It is so fun for me to plan those types of events. So I think we're going to see a lot of growth in that side. In terms of me personally, I'm so excited to keep growing. I'm excited to keep having more amazing families join my Concierge Plus program. And I'm just excited to kind of take over the luxury travel market and continue on this awesome path.
I see a book in the future for you. If you haven't thought of authoring one, you definitely should. I mean, just your insight, your the way that you are handling your accounts, and the ability to keep growing. I mean, building these mega empires for yourself, and really having this at the palm of your, you know, of your hands and at your fingertips is quite extraordinary to see at such a young age. You're truly very accomplished.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Listeners, viewers, if you are ready for your own elevated escape, from curated global itineraries to private jet travel, New York City has you covered. You can go to Top Tier Travel with Livii, and you can also check out MTK Group NYC. You could visit them directly at mtkgroupny.com for that elevated experience. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Xen is brought to you by MTK Group New York. Experience travel without limits. MTK Travel Club, part of MTK Group New York, offers exclusive access to private jet travel, 5-star resorts, and unforgettable luxury experience designed around you. From seamless departures to personalized itineraries, we elevate every moment of your journey. MTK Travel Club makes extraordinary travel effortless. Visit mtkgroupny.com today to discover a new level of luxury. A Moment of Xen is brought to you by Skin by Sari. Nationally recognized injector Sari Katz is redefining cosmetic treatments with an approach that's subtle, precise, and confidence-driven. Whether you're new to injectables or looking for an expert touch, Sari creates results that enhance your natural features. Never mask them. Discover what personalized aesthetics should feel like. To learn more, visit skinbysari.com or follow @skinbysari on Instagram.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Xen Sams. Welcome back to the Going Deep segment, brought to you by CO2 Lift. Today, we're joined by Tracy Andreasen, a board-certified nurse practitioner and the founder of Rise Rejuvenation Center, which is a leading medical aesthetics and wellness clinic in Utah. With a reputation for empowerment, clinical precision, and a strong commitment to education, she's become a trusted voice in the aesthetic industry, where she's a national speaker and clinical trainer. She's also the author of Color Me Injected, a detailed anatomy manual designed specifically for aesthetic injectors, and the founder of the Utah Injectors Association. She's going to join me today to chat about redefining beauty through education, empowerment, and holistic care, from natural results and intimate wellness to creating a culture of confidence inside and out. Welcome to the show, superstar.
Thank you so much for having me.
So excited to have you on. So studies show that more than 80% of aesthetic complications arise from procedures performed by undertrained injectors or non-medical providers, right?
Mhm.
You have built something extremely rare, a space that merges artistry with anatomy and mentorship with medicine. I love what you're doing. So I'm going to dive right in. Between Rise Rejuvenation Center, Utah's Injectors Association and your manual Color Me Injected, you built a little ecosystem, or a big ecosystem of beauty and empowerment, and more importantly, education. So what inspired you to create this kind of space and more importantly, platform, and focus not just on service and treatment, but also the fact that you emphasize the importance of continual education?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a great question. And thank you so much for your perspective. I think that's amazing. It's a good look into the med spa space for sure. That's part of the reason, honestly, why I started Rise, because I felt like a lot of the med spa spaces were just book your treatment, get your treatment, leave. And I felt like, one, we could be doing better with empowerment, making people feel better about themselves without having had done anything to them, where they just feel empowered by just meeting with us. So I really love to listen and learn from my patients and then validate and educate. I think education changes everything from, when we have a client perspective, it just builds confidence and trust with their provider. But I also love teaching in general, like teaching colleagues and teaching my team. And I just believe that when people understand the why, like the concepts behind everything we're doing, they are better providers. They're better connected to the care. And the results are just always better when we are like diving deep into what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we should be doing it, and just staying up to date in general.
Yeah, that's such an incredible foundation, because it's really clear your mission goes far beyond aesthetics, because what you're doing is you're cultivating safety and confidence and professional excellence all at once. And I think not everyone is doing that.
Yeah, it can be a hard balance to strike, for sure.
For sure. Now, you've also become synonymous with natural beauty, and that's exactly what today's patients are asking for. According to this year's Allergan Aesthetic Global Consumer Report, 78% of people now say they prefer a natural look, and 90% list quote unquote natural looking results as the top factor in satisfaction. Okay, that's logical. And that's a real shift, because we've moved from the Instagram face era to one that celebrates subtlety and balance and authenticity. But that kind of restraint requires both artistry and deep clinical understanding, at least in my opinion.
Yeah,
so
I totally agree.
So how do you ensure your patients achieve those natural looking results? And going one step further, how do you help them maintain the results long term without going overboard?
Yeah. So I agree that the shift has been so obvious. Like, I've been injecting for 10 years. And initially, we had people coming in asking for results that I just wouldn't deliver on. I'm like, you're going to look plastic, or it's going to look weird. And they're like, that's what I want. I want that, like, exaggerated look. I'm like, I don't think I'm the injector for you, because I have always been on board with natural beauty. I think that natural results come from balancing, like making sure everything's in harmony on the face, but also to maintain people's uniqueness and make sure that we're not trying to make everybody look like the same person. We have people that will come in and bring a picture of a celebrity or something and say, this is what I want. I'm like, well, so that's not your face. So we need to focus on your face and what we can do to enhance and make you feel your very best. I always say, like, the best results are the ones that you can't really detect. You just like look at them, you're like, wow, you look great. Like all the celebrity glow ups we see where people are freaking out about them are always the ones where no one can figure it out. They're like, did they get a facelift? Did they, is it really just that they're drinking lemon water, olive oil? So I think starting with a really great consultation is important. Like, really understand what their goals are, creating a plan based on expertise and knowledge about either facial aging or beautification and balance is key. And then in order for them to maintain, oh my gosh, I tell them it's like getting a personal trainer. If I was your personal trainer and you never went to the gym, after that, you didn't eat healthy unless I was there watching you eat, like, you're not going to have great results. So I'm going to do my best when you're in office, and when you're at home, I want you to have good skincare, good hydration, good wellness habits overall. And those are the things that really keep their results lasting and staying natural looking.
I love that philosophy. And it's never about just lemon water.
I disagree. That's a lie.
Right. So your philosophy, I love it. Enhancement without erasure, because you're showing patients that beauty can evolve gracefully when guided by science and intention. And I think that's at the core of it all, because you base yourself on your expertise, your technique, but the science is the science. Now let's turn to a subject many still shy away from: intimate wellness. So despite how common these concerns are, they're often just left out of the wellness conversations. And research from the International Journal of Women's Health shows that 1 in 4 women experience some form of pelvic or vaginal pain, yet less than 30% of us ever bring it up with our practitioners. So intimate health is not just physical. I mean, it's emotional and psychological, directly tied to confidence and self-esteem. And I love that you've made it part of your care model. So, Tracy, what inspired you to create a safe space for us gals in particular to explore and prioritize our intimate health? And how do you see your role in advancing this conversation openly and without shame?
Oh my gosh. Well, this is a subject I'm very passionate about. I mean, just like you said, so many women have gone through changes that have affected the quality of their intimate life, whether it's childbirth, hormones, aging. Like there's so much that goes into it. And there's so many women, more than 60% of women are suffering with something. And I think the conversation is hard to bring up if you make it weird and awkward. I think my role is to make it not weird. Like, I don't think it's weird. I think it's just normal. I mean, we all go through something, and the intimate health world is only going to stay taboo if we keep being quiet about it. So I love to use my social media platform to be a more open dialogue space. We created a really intimate, private, discreet area to talk about intimate health here at Rise, while also keeping it very warm and open. So there's no shame, there's no embarrassment. There's a lot of empowerment for that open dialogue. And I think that once women realize that they're not alone, because since they're not talking about it, a lot of women don't know that this is happening to a lot of people. It's major. It just like kind of flips that switch so that I get to share with them that there are real effective solutions to these things. And it's incredibly freeing. It's definitely one of the most rewarding parts of what I do.
Yeah, it's all about demystifying sexual stigmas surrounding female sexual wellness. And there's a lot of stigmas. So it's a very much needed perspective. And you're taking something often whispered about and you're turning it into an empowering dialogue that validates and uplifts us women. It's amazing what you're doing. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Now, one of the treatments you offer that's getting a lot of attention and buzz currently right now is the CO2 Lift V. It's a non-invasive vaginal rejuvenation option that's clinically proven to enhance hydration, elasticity, and comfort for your skin down there. And studies on carboxytherapy have shown, without a doubt, improved oxygenation and collagen stimulation at the dermal level. So what they're doing is it's clinically verified and clinically backed with actual visible improvements in texture and tone after just 3 sessions. So it's a fascinating blend of science and self-care that's changing how women approach intimate rejuvenation. And you are one of their headliners. So how do you integrate CO2 Lift V into your intimate care protocols, whether as a standalone option or paired with other treatments? I'd love to know, what results have you seen firsthand and what's the feedback?
Well, I love this product. It is such a fun addition for our patients. I think it's one of the only products that I feel like people can get excited about and not scared about, because it's a painless option and you can do it at home. It's rejuvenating and it just feels like a lot less of a scary commitment. People get afraid of devices or afraid of injections. And then you have this product that's like, hey, here to help. And it's not invasive. So I love it for that reason. It's a great entry into intimate health care. Like you said, we see improved hydration, improved comfort. The elasticity is so much better. People see visible change, which is amazing for cosmetic reasons. We definitely use it as a standalone treatment if people want that. We teach them how to use it in office and then they can do it at home, which is so nice. I like that they're involved and connected with their care and empowered to have a results driven, product at home that they use. But we also do pair it with some of our in-house treatments and office treatments, do it right after a treatment to help healing and just also boost the results of the treatment.
That's remarkable. I mean, and the founder, Lana Kerr, she's an incredible soul. And the idea that women can restore function and comfort naturally without surgery or downtime is truly liberating.
Oh, totally. And it's about time,
It's about time.
There's so many things in women's lives that we are like, beauty is pain, or you're going through something in childbirth and periods and menopause. And it's like nice to have an intimate health option that is truly just like kind to our bodies and restorative and not scary.
Yeah. And now when it comes to intimate health, the most common concerns often they go untreated for so many years. According to Harvard Health Publishing, more than 50% of women after childbirth experience pelvic floor changes, dryness, or urinary leakage, yet most of us never receive specialized care.
Mm-hmm.
So your integrative approach looks at each woman as a whole person,
Mm-hmm.
not just a list of symptoms,
Mm-hmm.
which is such a modern and compassionate take because that's not how it's typically done. So what intimate wellness concerns are you seeing most often among women today? I mean, how do you go about creating a customized treatment plan that addresses each patient's unique needs and goals?
A lot of the women that we see are experiencing dryness, laxity, decreased sensation, difficulty reaching climax. I mean, there's a pretty big, and like you said, urinary incontinence. There's a big range of what we see, and it's a mixed bag. And what's interesting is during consultations, sometimes, they think they're coming in for one problem and that's all they talk about. And then as we educate and I let them know what's available to them, they're like, oh, wait, I also have that problem. I just didn't think there was a solution for it, so I didn't bring it up, right?
Yeah.
So those conversations, like I always say, like, we want to go an inch wide and a mile deep when we're consulting with patients, because if we just keep it so surface level, especially in intimate health, we miss so many things that we can help women with. So, I mean, every woman's story is different. I really like to take a personalized approach for that reason. Like you said earlier, the emotional and psychological components of it are important to touch on too. So we build a full comprehensive plan, whether that's including things like CO2 Livii, regenerative therapy, if we're doing hormone support, energy-based treatment, therapy, whatever it is. We want to make sure that we're not only just treating symptoms and, saying like, check this box and then I'll plug you into the machine and figure out what would line up with those symptoms. It's about like restoring confidence and connection for them and just comfort overall to have better, intimate health, quality of life.
Yeah, that's such a thoughtful way to frame it. I mean, meeting women where they are physically and emotionally, and then giving them a plan that feels personal, not clinical.
Mm-hmm.
Can't do any better.
Can't do any better.
Now let's circle back to CO2 Lift. Both the V and Pro treatments are rooted in regenerative science, addressing skin health and function at that cellular level. And the global regenerative aesthetics market is projected to exceed $25 billion by the year 2030. That's just right around the corner, because patients now want treatments that heal, not just correct. So these therapies complement your holistic model beautifully, merging that internal wellness with that external radiance, right?
Yes.
So as a proponent of whole body wellness, what draws you to treatments like these, and how do you decide which technologies truly fit your patient care philosophy? And beyond the in-office treatments themselves, how do you encourage your patients to embrace healthy habits that really promote that longevity and overall well-being?
Mm-hmm. Great question. That reminds me of our 3 commitments at Rise. We have empower and uplift, be of service to others, whether it's our community and those in need. And then the third is to only offer high quality restorative treatments. Like, it doesn't get added to the menu unless it checks those boxes, because we want to make sure that, it's something I would do on my very best friend. I'm not just going to offer it because it would make money. I want to offer it because it's going to actually create change. So anytime we're, presented with new technology, new devices, new science, I ask, does this device or treatment provide real change? Like, I like to review clinical data, clinical research. I like to ask, does it solve our patients' problems? Like, do we actually have the problem to solve here? And is it going to help them? And then we also like to ask, does this support the body's natural healing process? That's the restorative component. That's part of our philosophy, is working with the body rather than against it. We're really intentional about what we bring into the practice, because it's what ends up giving our patients great results and better quality of life. So, it's just important to me that those treatments that we offer really nail that commitment of the high quality restorative treatments at Rise.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, because true beauty radiates from vitality and balance and confidence. So, you're reminding people that self-care is science-backed, soulful, and more importantly, sustainable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're depending on me to have done the research and have vetted these products, these services, to actually do what they say they're going to do, so they can come in confidently to know that they're safe in our hands and that they're going to see change.
You are amazing. And with that, we are at the end of our date. Tracy, it's been such a pleasure chatting with you. I learned so much from you today. And when I come to Utah, I'm coming to visit you.
Oh, I cannot wait.
That was the incredible Tracy Andreasen, board-certified nurse practitioner and founder of Rise Rejuvenation Center in Utah. You could head directly to their website at riserejuvenationcenter.com, and you can follow them on the gram at Rise Rejuvenation Center and at Tracy Andreasen _NP. That was our Going Deep segment brought to you by CO2 Lift. I'm your host, Zen Sams. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by CO2 Lift. As we age, our skin loses moisture and elasticity, causing wrinkled skin. You can reverse this aging process with CO2 Lift. CO2 Lift utilizes the powerful benefits of carbon dioxide to lift, tighten, and regenerate your skin. This simple, painless at-home carboxytherapy treatment is scientifically proven to reverse the aging process. You will see reduction in wrinkles, increase luminosity, and improve pigmentation, sagging, skin tone, and radiance.
For more information or to order CO2 Lift, ask your skincare professional or go to co2lift.com.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Today's conversation is part of our Clean Collective, brought to you by Society Brands, featuring Crunchy. And we're diving into a topic that affects every woman listening, whether she realizes it yet or not. Hormones under attack, the hidden toxins in our beauty routines, and how to protect our families without fear. Because when we talk about hormones, fertility, energy, mood, and long-term health, we often talk about food, stress, and sleep. But what's frequently missing from that conversation is what we're putting on our bodies every single day. Today, we're joined by Carly Hartwig. She's a holistic reproductive health practitioner, a certified fertility awareness educator, low-tox living expert, and self-proclaimed crunchy mom. Carly is passionate about empowering women to take control of their health and lead their wellness journeys with confidence, one clean swap at a time. She brings balance to the low-tox conversation, educating women and families on everything from environmental toxin exposure to hormone health, fertility, and long-term well-being. Carly, welcome to the show, superstar.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored.
Okay, I want to start with your story because so many women are living in bodies that feel off, but they don't always have the language for it. And in fact, when I was preparing for this segment, I came across research that showed that nearly 80% of women report hormone-related symptoms at some point in their lives. Things like irregular cycles and fatigue and acne and anxiety or even fertility changes. And yet environmental exposure is rarely discussed as a contributing factor in conventional healthcare. Now, you describe yourself as a crunchy mama and low tox educator, but this journey started with your own health struggles, to my understanding. So can you get into that a little bit? What were the earliest signs that your hormones were out of balance, and how did discovering the impact of everyday products shift the way you viewed your health and body?
Yeah, I always love sharing this because I think it can be so validating to a lot of women out there who are unfortunately not getting the support and the belief really from a lot of their providers, right? I mean, so many of us are gaslit by our providers when we come to them and we say, hey, like for me, I knew in my gut there was something going on with my thyroid. I was in my 20s. I was healthy. I was exercising. I was eating well, but I was gaining weight for no reason whatsoever. My mood swings were like out of control. I mean, I think back to my now husband. We had just started dating, and it's like he was pretty amazing for sticking with me through all of that. I had no energy. I had no fatigue. And again, I was young. There was no reason for this. And so what did I do? I went to my primary care physician. She ran a little bit of blood work, but not much, just kind of scratched the surface. And what did she do? She came back and told me that I was the pillar of health. And I was like, okay, perhaps on paper, but I'm telling you that I don't feel right. I know in my bones that something is going on. So ultimately, her resistance to continue kind of working with me to figure out what was going on led me to get a second opinion by a functional medicine practitioner. And that woman single-handedly changed my life. I still work with her, 13 years later. And she was honestly the first one to introduce me to this whole idea of environmental toxins, the products we put on our body, the products we clean our home with, right? Even things that like we brush our teeth with, like these things can impact our health, right? In a cumulative way. They are products that we are using every single day, our makeup, our skincare, our deodorant, our, shower products. And I had no idea. I knew that what I was eating impacted my health. I knew that my exercise impacted my health, sleep, right? I had kind of a basic foundation there, but she kind of blew my mind. And so after starting to work with her, I discovered that sure enough, my hormones were completely out of whack. My body wasn't producing progesterone. She said that I had the hormone profile of a postmenopausal woman, and I was in my 20s.
Wow.
I had hypothyroidism. And the reason she figured that out is because she ran a full thyroid panel, which my PCP wouldn't do. And I was dealing with a lot of heavy metal toxicity in my body. So she really was the bridge for me to understand that the products I was putting on my body and using in my home were impacting my health. And so from there, my journey kind of unfolded, and I just started deep diving and finding safer options. And I will tell you, 13 years ago, it was not very easy to find safer options. You know, when I walked into a store today, it couldn't be easier, which is really exciting.
And wow, this is a great story and it hits home. But what really stands out to me is how quiet this can be at first, right? It's not always one big diagnosis, like you said. It's a series of signals women are taught to ignore
Right.
or normalize.
Right.
And your story actually reflects what so many women out there experience before they ever connect the dots. And that's what we're going to unpack today. So when people think about clean living, they usually focus on food, organic produce, cutting out additives, reading nutrition labels. But here's what many don't realize. The skin is our largest organ. And studies show that chemicals from personal care products can be absorbed into the bloodstream within minutes. And according to the CDC, phthalates and parabens are detectable in the vast majority of Americans, with consistently higher levels found in women. So when we talk about clean living, many people focus on what's going into their body, but many of the biggest hormone disruptors are actually in our bathrooms and makeup bags. So can you explain how ingredients like phthalates and parabens and synthetic fragrances interfere with hormones, and why women and developing children are especially vulnerable?
Yeah, absolutely. So these chemicals that you just mentioned, so phthalates, parabens, they are endocrine disrupting chemicals, right? Or EDCs. And these chemicals are a very specific class of chemicals. They can mimic our hormones. They can block production of hormones. They can impact how our hormones are actually produced in our bodies. And these are well studied, right? Like these are not like woo-woo things. Endocrine disrupting chemicals are very, very real, and they have a lasting impact on our bodies. So they really impact all of us, men, women, children, but we as women are definitely vulnerable, and so are children. So when I think about endocrine disrupting chemicals in men, we have a lot of data to show that men are not doing so great these days when it comes to their fertility. Only 1 in 4 men has optimal sperm quality and quantity. And that's due in large part to endocrine disrupting chemicals, especially things like phthalates. Phthalates impact testosterone production in men and also impact sperm quality and quantity. Now, for us as women, we have a more delicate balance with our hormones, which is why we are extra vulnerable to the effects of endocrine disrupting chemicals. When we think about our cycles and our hormones kind of balance, right? We have estrogen that dominates the first half of our cycle, progesterone that dominates the second half of our cycle. We need things to kind of remain in that balance for our fertility and our hormones to be optimal. So in women, endocrine disrupting chemicals can impact our ovulation. There are a lot of women out there who are not ovulating regularly. And while we may think of our periods as like, the star of our hormones, it's actually ovulation. Ovulation is essential for our health. So endocrine disrupting chemicals can impact ovulation. It can impact our ovarian reserve. It can increase our risk of miscarriage. It can make it more difficult for us to get pregnant and to stay pregnant. And then children, especially young children and children who are going through puberty, are especially vulnerable because their brains, their organs, their endocrine systems, everything is still developing. So when we think about endocrine disrupting chemical exposure for kids, that can truly impact their health, their reproductive organs, their fertility, really for the rest of their life. And this is even true in babies. We have found hundreds of chemicals in cord blood, which means that these babies are being exposed in utero. And there are studies to show that baby boys who are exposed to phthalates through their mother, right? So their mother is exposed through their skin, things like that, and their, like you said, their makeup, their personal care products, that can actually impact baby boys' future fertility while they're in utero developing. So,
the toxic load is real.
It is very real.
And this is such an important reframing because beauty isn't a vanity conversation anymore. It's a health conversation. And once you understand that, you can't unknow it.
I know, 100%.
So, and now we're also seeing concerning trends across generations. So today, 1 in 6 couples experience those fertility challenges, and research suggests puberty is occurring earlier in girls than it did just a few decades ago. And while there's no single cause, experts increasingly point to chronic low-level chemical exposure during critical developmental windows as a contributor. Now, there's growing concern around hormone disruption linked to fertility challenges and even precocious puberty, right, in children we just talked about. So what role do those environmental toxins and low-level chemical exposures play in these trends, particularly for kids? And what are some realistic steps families can take to reduce that burden?
Yeah. So I'm loving the data that we're starting to see, because I think that as a whole, our society is starting to take this more seriously. And I think when parents see their 8-year-old daughters get their periods, they're like, okay, something must be going on. So we know, again, that endocrine disrupting chemicals, especially xenoestrogens, which are a very specific subclass of chemicals that specifically impact our estrogen, which is obviously very important when we think about young girls as they're starting their transition through puberty. So we know that those endocrine disrupting chemicals can impact really like the feedback loops that are kind of going on when we think about puberty between our brain, our pituitary gland, our reproductive organs. So these loops are being disrupted, which is why a lot of young girls and young boys are starting to go through puberty sooner. And this can have lifelong consequences. We don't want our daughters to be getting their periods at, 7 and 8 years old. We also know that there's chemicals called forever chemicals or PFAS chemicals, which I'm sure people have heard about just through like watching the news. They're kind of a buzzy term right now. Those are a specific type of endocrine disrupting chemical that are especially problematic because they are persistent in our bodies, unlike other types of chemicals that we can excrete through our waste. So those can specifically impact hormone development. And those are also starting to be linked to that precocious or early puberty. So what I always talk about with families, especially with parents, because I know that this can be overwhelming, I want to make it perfectly clear that we can never live a completely toxin-free life. Not in this world, not right now. We're inundated with toxins from our soil, our water, our air, our personal care products. What we can do is take steps to reduce our toxic load, to allow our wonderful, beautiful detox pathways in our body to work, right? To allow our bodies to sweat, to excrete chemicals through our waste, right? We have our liver, we have our kidneys, we have things that work. The problem is we are inundating our bodies, so they cannot detox these chemicals and these toxins effectively. So every little step you take to support your family and especially your kids in reducing their exposure to these chemicals is going to add up in a big way. So we have a lot of young girls that are trying to shop at Sephora and Ulta and getting beauty products that they should not be putting on their skin. That's a big one. We have to draw really hard boundaries there, right? Young girls do not need to be slathering a 5-step skincare routine onto their bodies. Another big one is deodorant. I know a lot of times when kids are starting to go through puberty, the odor starts, and so we give them an antiperspirant. That is one of the worst things we can do for our kids. We want our kids' bodies to sweat. Sweat is a huge part of our detox system. So choosing a natural, cleaner deodorant instead of an antiperspirant is a really easy one. The way that we pack our kids' lunches, right? Instead of packing them in plastic containers, switching your kids to stainless steel containers or glass containers, like those will help a lot. And then being really choosy about the products that you bring into your home for cleaning, like I said, for their bath and body products. Like there are so many clean options out there, and it's getting easier and easier to find them.
Yeah. And what I appreciate here is that this isn't about fear, right? It's about awareness. You're not saying everything needs to change overnight. You're giving families agency and a place to start.
Right.
And go ahead.
I was going to say, what I think is when parents feel overwhelmed, or even just women, who don't have kids feel overwhelmed, they do nothing, right? They get analysis paralysis. So what I encourage people to do is just start with one product. Find something that you are not emotionally attached to. Like if you are obsessed with your lipstick or your mascara, you're not ready to give that up, don't start there, right? Start with something else.
Now, for mothers especially, there can be guilt around what we didn't know before we knew better. And guilt is heavy, especially when it comes to our kids.
Mm-hmm.
But shame isn't productive, and it certainly isn't protective. So for mothers in particular, how do you encourage moms to give themselves grace while still taking these meaningful steps to reduce the toxic exposure for their children, especially during those critical developmental windows?
Right. I like to remind parents, anyone who's in my community, that we are all just doing our best. We are making the best decisions we can with the information we have at the time. And then when we learn something, right, we have new information, we know better, then we do better. And it's that simple. And I also like to talk about this study that came out years ago from Hermosa. And in 3 days of young girls using personal care products free from endocrine disrupting chemicals like phthalates and parabens, they saw a reduction in their urinary biomarkers by 27 to 45%. And that's in 3 days. So the good news, because I know this can be kind of doom and gloom, the good news is that most environmental toxins are non-persistent, which means when we stop exposing ourselves to them, we stop putting them on our bodies, we stop ingesting them, they're not going to be in our bodies, right? So that's really encouraging. So I like to start there because I think that that can give people a lot of hope. I mean, that study alone, 3 days is huge, right? And then, yes, there are those forever chemicals, those PFAS chemicals, and those are the persistent ones. So those can stick around in our bodies for up to 9 years. Those are everywhere, right? And there's no way that we can eliminate our exposure to them. What we can do is reduce our exposure when we know that things like our drinking water, that's one of the largest single sources of PFAS or forever chemical exposure. So for me, that's always one of my number one recommendations when I'm working with families who are on their like kind of switch to safer, low tox living journeys. Start with that drinking water, man, because holy moly, will that make a difference, right? And then we can start with our personal care products. Now, whether you want to start with a product you're about to run out of, that's what I personally did. I was in grad school when I started this journey. I could not put all of my toxic products in a box, put it to the curb and be done. You know, and some people do that and that's great, but you have to find what works for you. For me, I could not justify wasting all of that money. So when I ran out of my foundation or my deodorant or my laundry detergent, I found a safer option. That's it. And it can be that simple. Now, if you want to kind of make a big bang for your buck, especially with your kiddos, it would be the products that sit on their body all day long. So when we think about our morning routines, what are the products we're putting on our bodies that are there all day? Our skincare, our deodorant, our makeup, our body lotion, you know, sunscreen, things like that. Starting there makes a really huge difference fast.
Right. And that message is so important because moms don't need more pressure.
No.
They need compassion, education, and support. And this feels like permission to move forward without self-blame.
Yes.
And there are a lot of great companies out there that really promote toxin-free living, low chemtrails. The Clean Collective segment here that we're talking about, Society Brands, is all about that, from Crunchy to Clonomic to Primal Life Organic. And the term clean isn't regulated these days. And that makes shopping incredibly confusing. Words like natural, green, and non-toxic are often marketing terms, not guarantees of safety.
No.
And clean living can feel overwhelming, right? In a world where products are poorly labeled or unregulated. So what should consumers look for beyond buzzwords when choosing skincare, makeup, and household products?
I always say ignore the front label and just turn it around and look at the ingredients. And I can share a couple of resources to help, because it's like sometimes you feel like you need a chemical degree in order to be able to look at what's in our products, which is crazy. But luckily there are some resources to help. But what I always say is literally ignore the front. Like you said, non-toxic, clean, green. What I see a lot lately is plant-based, especially in cleaning products. Like plant-based does not necessarily mean that it's clean and non-toxic, right? Dermatologist recommended or pediatrician recommended. Those are big in like the personal care world. You'll see that a lot of times on baby products. Meaningless. That's completely meaningless, because I can tell you right now, the number one dermatologist recommended laundry detergent for babies is Dreft. And not only does it have irritating ingredients to their sensitive skin, but it has undisclosed fragrance, which, if your listeners don't know, undisclosed fragrance is one of the first things that you should definitely start to try to avoid, because there's something called the fragrance loophole, where companies can hide any combination of thousands of ingredients under the term fragrance. So even just starting to read your labels and look for fragrance, because the problem is when you see that word fragrance, that's adding about 14 on average ingredients into your product, and 85% chance that at least one of those ingredients has phthalates, right? Because phthalates will make scent stick. So if you put on perfume in the morning and it still smells later at night, If it's conventional perfume, that's phthalates. So just reading your labels for undisclosed fragrance can be really, really huge, but ignoring all of those claims on the front because exactly as you said, they are completely meaningless.
Yeah, this is such practical education. And honestly, something we should have all learned years ago. It turns confusion into confidence. So thank you for framing that.
100%. Yeah. And if people want a couple of resources, I really like the EWG. You can use their free resources right on their website. They have apps. I also like the Clearya app. You can kind of scan products and it'll just tell you, like, hey, here are some maybe red flag ingredients. So if it can be a little bit easier sometimes to look at labels when you have a resource, that's fine. Otherwise, looking for fragrance, looking for parabens, looking for phthalates on an ingredient label, even looking for things that end in like ETH, like a laureth, right? That means it's an ethoxylated ingredient, which is something that we definitely want to be avoiding. You'll sometimes see like a number 9 after those, or you'll see like a PEG, PEG, and then a number. If you see those, just put it back and find a safer option. And again, it is getting easier and easier to find safer options. I can walk into my CVS and find safer options. I can walk into a Walmart, a Target. Like, it is easier than ever, truly.
And this is exactly why the Clean Collective, brought to you by Society Brands, exists to spotlight brands and educators like yourself who are doing the work with transparency and integrity and heart. And I love that. I love that. And I saw on one of your blog posts that you endorsed the Crunchy collection. Tell me how you came across Crunchy.
I love, love, love Crunchy. So it took me a long time to find makeup and skincare that actually worked, that was also clean. Like, I found a lot of duds. And so a brand that I was using actually shut down. And I was like, okay, this is a great time for me to try Crunchy. Turns out I love Crunchy, especially their makeup. I think, their skincare is amazing and so clean. I think their makeup is the best non-toxic makeup I have ever tried.
Same.
And I have tried them all. Like, truly, I can do a full face of makeup or something really natural. And it's the performance for me. Like, the performance just blows other brands out of the water. So I'm just continually impressed by their innovation and the new products that they come up with. And yeah, I will never be without my Crunchy products.
I love it. I love it. Well, we are at the end of this incredible session. You are filled with information. I'd love to have you back in the new year and we can talk about clean living again, but we definitely will get you a ton of products sent over from all the other incredible brands that society has. And your voice is very powerful, Carly. I mean, you have a community of women that love and follow you. You're a professional, you're a mother, you're a wife, you're educated. And I'm honored to have interviewed you today.
Thank you so much. That means the world.
You can learn more from Carly Hartwig at cleanlivingwithcarly.com. You could follow her directly on the gram at Clean Living with Carly. And if today's conversation inspired you to take just one step towards cleaner living, remember, small intentional changes add up in a very big way. And for more conversations like this, you could go directly to our website on amomentofxen.com. You're listening to the Clean Collective segment brought to you by Society Brands featuring Crunchy. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Westbridge Academy in Essex County, where students are seen, heard, and understood. Neurodiverse K-12 students, many facing ADHD, anxiety, depression, or aggression, discover strength through connection. With compassionate educators, therapeutic support, and the latest technology, students can master academics and go further, exploring music production, financial and automotive literacy, social media awareness, and wellness. Visit westbridgeacademy.org to learn more.
Well, that's a wrap, my beautiful tri-state area. You've been listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Remember to join me right here on A Moment of Zen every Saturday, and you could head directly to amomentofzen.com for live listening links and episode downloads in your city. And also remember that we're live on Traverse TV Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern. We upload directly on our YouTube channel Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern at Zen Sams, and all episodes of A Moment of Zen are available on your home TV streaming platform. You could head to mox.yourhometv.com. Thank you to all of our sponsors and partners that continue to make this show possible. It's been an absolute pleasure being your host. Remember, happiness is the only thing that multiplies when you share it. We'll be back next week.